I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. This week, the MAGA Republican congressional hearings completely backfired in their faces magnificently. Let's go through the different hearings and let's watch it backfire in their face, shall we? First, the Judiciary Committee hearing where MAGA Republicans wanted to grill Merrick Garland about why the Department of Justice and FBI is holding January 6th insurrectionists and domestic terrorists accountable, but Democrats took control of the hearing. Here is Democratic Congressmember Hank Johnson pointing out the flagrant hypocrisy of MAGA Republicans and making this hearing a way to expose the bribes taken by Jared Kushner and others in Donald Trump's orbit, including Donald Trump. Watch Democratic Congressmember Hank Johnson play the clip.
The nation watches as the Republicans have no answer for why they want to focus and obsess on Hunter Biden receiving $2 million from Burisma after serving on a board that he said he was not qualified to serve on. But yet the Saudi Arabians gave $2 billion to Jared Kushner, who conducted Middle East strategy for his dear old dad, Donald Trump. He got $2 billion for something that he is not equipped to do, which is investment banking. And so Republicans looking at Hunter Biden instead of Jared Kushner, Americans don't understand how that could be.
Here in this exchange, Democratic Congressmember Adam Schiff and Merrick Garland, Attorney General, point out again that the MAGA Republicans wanted the prosecutor who is prosecuting Hunter Biden to be the prosecutor. It's a Trump appointee. It's a Republican. They wrote a letter asking for this guy, David Weiss, the Republican, to be the prosecutor. And now all MAGA Republicans know is conspiracy theory. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous here. Watch this clip.
Let me ask you this question about the prosecution of Hunter Biden. The prosecutor in that case, Mr. Weiss, was appointed not by Joe Biden, but he was appointed in the first instance by Donald Trump. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And he was continued in that position, was he not?
He was continued in that position, yes.
And Mr. Attorney General, can you imagine the hue and cry you would hear from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle if you had removed him from that position? Can you imagine the claims that you had removed a prosecutor who was diligently investigating Hunter Biden? Can you imagine the outrage they would have expressed?
I can say that during my confirmation hearing, I discussed with many senators on that side of the aisle their desire and actual insistence that Mr. Weiss be continued to have responsibility for that matter. And I promised, and I said at my confirmation hearing, that he would be permitted to stay and that I would not interfere.
And Mr. Attorney General, that was exactly the right decision. That was the right decision to give the American people the confidence that even a prosecutor chosen by the former president would continue in the investigation into the son of the current president. That was exactly the right decision. Exactly the right decision. And my colleagues on the other side of the aisle would have been screaming if it were otherwise. But their attack on you is completely devoid of fact, of principle. But I appreciate you doing the right thing for the Department of Justice and, more importantly, the right thing for the American people. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Kentucky.
Then MAGA Republicans really showed how dangerous they are. Here you have at the same hearing MAGA Republican Victoria Spars, and she is complaining about how people will be afraid to join a future insurrection. I kid you not, just watch what she says. This is woo, play the clip.
Are you aware that a lot of Americans are now afraid of being prosecuted by your department? Are you aware about that? Are you aware of that? I'm just saying, are you aware or not?
I think that constant attacks on the department and saying
It's not attacks. Well, let me give you an example.
I don't know
We talk about January 6th. People.
I'm sorry?
Here, there some people came on January 6th. There probably were some people that came on January 6th here, that had bad intent. But a lot of good Americans from my district came here because they are sick and tired of this government not serving them. They came with strollers and the kids, and there was chaotic situation because the proper security wasn't provided. That's a question that was answered really why. Why we debated for 45 minutes on the floor and didn't stop the debate after the people broke into the Capitol. But these people came, they were throwing the smoke bombs into the crowd with strollers with kids. People were showed up, FBI agent to people's houses. You had in my district, in my town, FBI phone numbers all over the district. Please call that. People are truly afraid. I just want to make sure if you're not aware that you are.
And here is MAGA Republican Congress member McClintock also just demonstrating how unhinged MAGA Republicans are. Let me show you this clip, then we'll go to the next hearing. You thought these clips were bad? Wait till what I'm about to show you in terms of this stuff backfiring on MAGA Republicans. Play this clip.
Yields back. The gentleman, Mr. McClintock from California, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Attorney General, looking again at the appointment of Jack Smith and David Weiss, this double standard of justice couldn't be more glaring. Jack Smith was deeply involved in the IRS scandal that targeted conservative political groups to harass. His malicious prosecution of former Governor McDonnell was unanimously overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court. Chief Justice Roberts rebuked Smith directly for attempting to criminalize political activity. You appointed him to prosecute Joe Biden's chief rival for the presidency. And then we have the appointment of David Weiss. Weiss deliberately allowed the statute of limitations to run out on any charges that could have implicated Joe Biden in influence peddling. He originally offered Hunter Biden a sweetheart deal that was ultimately upended by the court. And he's the one you appointed to pursue the charges that could implicate Joe Biden. That leaves me to only two explanations, either corruption or incompetence. So which is it?
Those are the kind of questions that judges would rule out of order.
I'm sure you would. Which is it?
Look, I said before, and I will say again, Mr. Weiss was the Republican-appointed United States Attorney appointed by President Trump.
Do you at least see the obvious double standard applied in these two appointments?
Mr. Weiss was a Republican appointee. Mr. Smith is not registered to either party. His entire career was as a career prosecutor.
I'm not asking what their party registrations are. I'm asking about their records and how those records would commend them.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Do you ever find that just as you're trying to fall asleep, your brain suddenly won't stop talking? Do your thoughts start racing right before bed or at other inopportune moments? Now, I know my job can be very demanding, and I know my mind is always racing, whether it's work-related or family-related. I personally benefited from therapy because it allows me to discuss my feelings of uneasiness or stress factors and find ways to cope in a healthy and productive way. It's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. Therapy also empowers you to become the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. Now, whether you're dealing with decisions around your career, relationships, or anything else, therapy helps you stay connected to what you really want while you navigate your life so you can move forward with confidence and excitement. Now, if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Get a break from your thoughts with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Meidas today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Meidas.
Okay, then there was a committee hearing on funding the government. MAGA Republicans don't want to do their jobs. They don't want to fund the government. Here is Democratic Congress member Joe Neguse, and here he's speaking to this. The first clip I'll show you. The first clip I'll show you. He's speaking to Clay Higgins, because one of the things the MAGA Republicans want to do is remove all funding in spending packages to help fight COVID. And Clay Higgins, who almost died of COVID, is saying that it's not dangerous, even though he almost died of the Delta variant. And he thinks that death is not a dangerous thing. This is MAGA Republican Clay Higgins for you folks. Play this clip.
Question that you just posed back, whether you think COVID-19 is serious or dangerous.
I believe that perhaps the gentleman's definition of danger might be quite different from mine.
Okay. So is that a no? Or I'm trying to understand.
Well, there obviously.
Is it dangerous to you
levels
by
of
your
danger.
definition? I don't.
You know, as levels of danger concern, I would put a virus along the lines of the flu far down my list of priorities that I would consider as dangerous in my life. I have lived a life that I've stared danger in the eye many, many times, and it never resembled COVID.
Got it. Well, I'll enter into the record. I appreciate your answer. This is an article from August 13th of 2021 from a newspaper titled The Advocate. I think it's a Louisiana newspaper. The headline is Clay Higgins says COVID, quote, almost killed me, remains opposed to mandates. And there's a paragraph here, I'll quote from it just so that we're clear. It says, regarding COVID-19, Higgins, Representative Higgins, of course, told the audience of several dozen residents at the event organized by the African American Chamber of Commerce that the disease, quote, almost killed me, end quote. Quote, there was a day there when I wasn't sure y'all were going to have to tolerate me much longer, end quote, he said. Quote, my wife, my son, and I got COVID about a month ago, the Delta variant, and I've never been knocked down that hard in my life. I'm fully recovered now. My suits fit better, end quote. So that
is an accurate assessment of yes, sir. I faced death's door from the Delta variant of COVID, and I remain very heavily inoculated, having gained natural immunity and lived through that experience because I'm a healthy American and I remain unvaccinated by the experimental vaccine, which I'm sure you got. Good luck with that. But I battled COVID a couple of times. One time brought me to death's door, but here I am.
Well, and here the Democratic Congress member Joe Neguse is like, who's in charge here? Like, who's running this for you, MAGA Republicans? Like, you control the House, but who controls you? Oh, it's Donald Trump. He doesn't say that, but that's obviously, I think one of the implications here. But here, Neguse, Democratic Congress member, he's speaking with the Appropriations Subcommittee chair on the issues that need to be addressed. And here you'll see the MAGA Republicans like, oh, I don't know. I don't know who's doing anything. Play the clip.
My dear friend Henry Cuellar try to find better ways to implement a strategy to contain what's happening at the border because it's a national shame.
And I, for one, want to say I appreciate your commitment. The question I have is why has it taken 100 days for the Homeland Security Subcommittee and the full Appropriations Committee to bring this bill to the Rules Committee if the situation on the southern border is as urgent as you and I both believe it is?
Well, I certainly agree that if I was, running this place, I prioritize things perhaps in a different way. But
aren't you running the place? Who is in charge?
Well,
do I talk to the Republican whip? Do I talk to Speaker McCarthy? Who do I ask this question of?
Well, the appropriations process normally takes place we have our field hearings throughout the first 6 months of the year.
Sure.
July, generally, as we have processed 10 of our 12 bills. The other 2 should get done shortly.
You did your work. June 21st, you marked up the bill. June 21st was 100 days ago.
Correct.
All I'm trying to ask is what happened in this intervening 100 days? Why didn't we take up this bill last month? Or maybe in July? I don't understand.
I've been ready to go on June 22nd, sir, but I don't dictate the schedule.
Do you understand why the American people would be frustrated as they see a Republican caucus that purports and states that the situation on our southern border is urgent, but waits 100 days to bring a Homeland Security funding bill to the House floor? Would that?
Then, of course, there was Pete Buttigieg, Secretary of Transportation, being questioned by MAGA Republican La Mulfa, MAGA Republican Congress member who doesn't know that the changing of seasons is not climate change. Play this clip.
Who wants those? Nobody wants these electric vehicles unless you're an elite that can afford them. People in my district sure as hell don't want them. So keep going. Why are we doing this? Is it over CO2?
Yeah, we're doing it for 3 reasons. Even though the EV revolution is going to happen anyway.
It's a revolution caused
I would love to be able to answer your question, Congressman.
Yeah, okay.
Even though we think that transition is happening in the automotive sector no matter what, there are 3 things that we think are not guaranteed. Will it happen quickly enough to materially help with climate change? Will it happen on equitable terms that are available to people who aren't wealthy and might not be able?
Short on time.
If I could just please finish my answer.
Let's drill on the climate change.
Just finish the third. Will it be made on American soil or not?
It's about CO2, isn't it?
How's that?
What percent of the atmosphere is CO2 that we're chasing here?
I'm sorry?
What percent of the atmosphere is CO2 that we're chasing here? Because you talked about climate change.
I don't know the percentage of atmospheric gases.
You don't know the percent of the atmosphere.
What I can tell you is that climate change is real. We got to do something about it.
Yeah, this one's called autumn, sir. So
I'm sorry?
This one's called autumn right now, so yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't make out what you said, sir.
This climate change right now is called autumn, yes.
Yeah, that's the seasons changing, which respectively is not the same thing as the climate changing.
And just watch this next clip. This is Pete Buttigieg, Secretary of Transportation. He's getting attacked by MAGA Republicans for some idiotic conspiracy about how Buttigieg takes so many private jets, which he doesn't do. Just watch how Buttigieg very logically answers the question with facts and data. Play the clip.
Secretary Buttigieg, since taking the role, you've traveled quite a bit, including private flights. How often do you take private flights?
So I assume by private flights you mean the use of government aircraft assigned to my agency. And I knew this might come up, so I brought some numbers. Since getting this job, I have taken 600, these are estimates, give or take a couple, but I've taken 638 flights.
And any of those commercial?
Say about that?
Any of those commercial?
607 of them were commercial, 10 of them were on military aircraft such as Air Force One, and 21 of them were on FAA aircraft, representing about 3% of the flights.
What was there was a Freedom of Information request made of your office to reveal the costs of the travel. Have you provided those costs?
I'd have to check back with the office to see how on the traffic, but I can tell you that, yeah, we're going to comply
As I understand,
with all
it's
FOIA
been months
requests.
and you've not provided the financial numbers for that travel.
Okay. Again, I can check on the status of a FOIA request, but I can also...
You'll commit to providing that information?
We will always comply with FOIA. But I appreciate the chance to discuss this because I can't help but get the sense that some people want to make it sound as if I don't
Mr.
travel most of
Secretary.
the time on commercial aircraft, which of course is untrue.
Yeah. Mr. Secretary, I think the irony for most people in my district is that they're being told that they're going to have to convert to electric vehicles to reduce their carbon footprint, and yet not everyone gets to travel the way that you do.
Just once again, the way I usually travel is in economy class aboard an airliner like everybody else. When we do it differently, it's often because it will save taxpayer money.
I want to get on.
I'm so glad you asked this because
items.
I'm kind of excited to share some of the
Secretary
details.
Here's the thing, folks. Facts, data, evidence, logic, intelligence, that should not be just unique to the Democratic Party. That should be like, I don't know, being a professional, like being an adult, like conducting yourself in a way that is respectful of our government. But you see here, this is one of the reasons I'm supportive right now of the Democratic Party. It's like adults, evidence-based facts. And on the other hand, you've got these MAGA Republicans holding these hearings that just backfire in their faces because their entire performative cosplay fascist shtick is built on a house of fascist Donald Trump cards. It's all bogus BS. We're going to keep exposing it here on the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 2 million subscribers thanks to your support. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Have a great day.
Hey Midas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.